Hello and welcome to Fit to Box channel. Please like and subscribe and don't forget to jab that notifications bell for all my latest uploads. Today we've got a fight discussion on the upcoming fight, which is Chris Eubank Jr. and George Groves. And we'll also be doing a little bit of a recap at the start over the last fight discussion that we did, which of course was Lomachenko and Rigondeaux. So we'll start off with that. Right at the end also what we'll do is we'll have a little bit of a peek of a couple of the fights that are coming up in the heavyweight division. So we will be having a little bit of a talk about Wilder versus Ortiz and also AJ versus Parker. But to kick it off, last video that we did fight discussion wise, the guys were here as well as they always are. We've got Alex here to my left, and then over on the far side we've got Damien. Our predictions for Lomachenko-Rigondeaux. Obviously the result was Lomachenko won after round 6, basically retired on his stool, claiming that he'd injured his left hand. So it was a bit of a controversial stoppage in terms of the fact that it looked like he'd just quit. It looked like it was like a no-mass situation where he just got frustrated and decided that he didn't want to carry on. So we all had a prediction. Let's start off, out of the three of us, one of us got it spot on, one of us got it right result for the right person, and one of us got it totally wrong. So we'll start off with me, because I got it totally wrong. I did say Rigondeaux. I just thought that he might be able to produce something really special, something that was sort of in the tank, but we hadn't really seen it, and I thought Lomachenko would bring that out in him. And at this point I've got to sort of basically say that, when we did the fight discussion, it was a 50-50 fight. It's only now, with sort of hindsight, that you look and you think, oh my God, he was totally outclassed. And now, I'm sitting here thinking, well, how did I pick Rigondeaux when actually he was outclassed in such a fashion? But of course, that's because we know the result. With Alex, now let's go to Damien first of all, because Damien was the one that was in the middle. He actually picked Lomachenko.
Did I say points? Did I?
Win on points.
Yeah.
Okay, so it may well have gone that way if Rigo had decided to carry on. But after I think it was the first two fight discussions that we did, Damien, where you got it wrong, didn't you?
Yeah, I think I had the wrong. I sort of went with sort of head rather than heart, and just got it a bit wrong. But I've got it right this time.
Got it well.
Sort of.
Yeah, got the winner right, and I'll give you that because I got the winner wrong. But then we have Alex. What did Alex say? He said Rigo to retire in the corner and Lomachenko win.
Yeah.
Well, that was totally spot on.
I know. Well, yeah, I surprised myself though, really, with that one.
You didn't pick the round, but we'll give you that. So absolutely spot on. Again, we'll do sort of predictions for the Eubank Jr. versus George Groves and the other fights that I've mentioned as well. We will give our sort of little takes on them. But in terms of Lomachenko-Rigondeaux, from my point of view, I just think that Lomachenko just showed how good he is, and he was just a level and couple of levels above Rigo, and it surprised me. I thought Rigondeaux would have done better than that. It was almost like he run out of ideas without really trying anything. Although I think that he probably was trying stuff the whole time, hence why he decided that was it. What do you think, Damien? Do you?
Yeah, I thought he may cause Lomachenko a lot more problems than he did. I think the first round, Lomachenko just sort of felt his way. I think Rigondeaux afterwards said about the second round he hurt his hand, but I don't know what punch it was, and all the analysts were replaying it and trying to work out where it was, if they saw a funny landing, but you couldn't really see anything.
No.
It did seem more like an excuse, and I think the guy is just technically so proficient, and when you jab and try different things and you're getting nowhere and you're getting hit, and I know that from my own sparring experience, it's really frustrating. In your body, physically, you can carry on, but in your mind, you're like, what's the point? Why am I here? I'm getting nowhere, I'm getting embarrassed. Fight another day. And it just seemed like he capitulated. And Lomachenko, I thought would outclass him on points and would beat him, but I didn't expect he showed him up.
Yeah, absolutely. Alex, so you had a feeling it was going to be like that anyway.
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. Really. I think obviously there was that natural size advantage Lomachenko, which I think definitely helped.
Yeah, definitely.
I think the styles as well, like where Rigo he bends down a lot, doesn't he? And that, but Lomachenko fights quite straight, he's quite tall, and I think that played into his hands a lot. Yeah. And I just think he was levels above him really. And,
I mean, I didn't think that Lomachenko's angles that he was using so well against everyone else would work against Rigo, and everything he did worked. Yeah. It was almost
perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we covered off the amount of amateur fights both of them had, and I sort of just thought, well, they've both seen everything. It's going to be very, very interesting. But in reality, Lomachenko just had his number from the start. It didn't even look at any point like Rigo was going to do anything. No. When he stopped and he stayed in the corner, I was really disappointed because I think from now he's going to have that. It's a bit like the Roberto Duran mass. It's going to taint his career. And let's be honest, he's had a fabulous career up to this point. And now everyone will just remember him for that. So whether or not he carries on and redeems himself or what happens, but it was a very interesting fight. And ultimately, Lomachenko, the Matrix.
Did it again.
If
I was Rigonda and you wanted to save face, or it was an injury, I would be chasing like there's no tomorrow to get a rematch. And he isn't saying a word.
No, I haven't heard anything.
So because if you've hurt your hand, and from the second round on, basically you've had a round and a half where you can perform, and he's had 5.5, 6.5 rounds where he can't perform. You redeem yourself. You get back in the ring. You say no, rematch. Let's do it. Not a thing.
No.
So I think there's more to it. It's not a case of I just hurt my hand and afterwards you said I'll fight anybody anytime. Well, fight him. Where's the rematch then? He's not saying a word. He isn't calling him out.
He's realised, isn't he?
Yeah.
That this is
I think there's an instance in the fight where Rigonda goes quite low down and ducks down, and Lomachenko got him square in the back of the head, and the referee saw it and didn't call it. And it's interesting. The commentator said, rather than the referee pulling him and saying don't do that, I think he let it go because I think Rigonda was riding down so low below the waistline. He was like, well, you shouldn't be down there anyway. So you're kind of getting your just desserts in one sense.
He does go low, doesn't he?
It does go low, and it's never really cost him before.
No.
But obviously it did this time. To Lomachenko's credit, when he was being interviewed at the end, I mean, he did acknowledge sort of the weight difference. He did say,
But wasn't there still a clause in place that even for the rehydration they had to be weighed on right before the fight, and it couldn't be more than a £15 difference or something
but the original thing that he'd come up 2 weight divisions, hadn't he, Rigo, and I think Lomachenko basically sort of acknowledged that, which he didn't have to do. He could have just said, this was a great victory, and I dominated him and I forced him to quit, and he did say something about that, didn't he? He said there was some nickname that he gave himself. Nomaschenko.
Keeps making people stop.
And he's making really good fighters stop as well.
Fourth, fifth time.
He's
made my guys retire. So says it all, doesn't it?
So it'd be interesting to see sort of going forward. I think there's talk of Lomachenko versus Linares. That'll be a good fight.
Really good.
Be a very good fight.
Mikey Garcia as well.
Garcia would be a great fight. Really so there's still good fights out there for Lomachenko to test his skills against. What we'll do, we'll move on to the actual fight discussion now around Chris Eubank Jr. Facing George Groves on the 17th of February. So we'll just go through, we'll have predictions at the end, but what we'll do first of all is let's talk about the strengths of Eubank. Okay, Damien, what do you see as Eubank's strengths?
Eubank's biggest strength, I think I've said to you in the gym a little bit about this. I've never really looked at Chris Eubank Jr. as a puncher, as a finisher, and on his last fight he did exactly that. He had a great stoppage, the 3rd round or something, or 4th round. He had a great stoppage, and I was impressed with that. But before that, what I have always thought about him, 3rd round KO, he's always had a great engine. And I always thought when I watched the Billy Joe Saunders fight, the latter half of that fight, 7 through 12, he really pressed, and I thought he was winning the fight. And I think if he'd have started the fight in that manner and jumped on Billy Joe Saunders, the result could have been different.
Definitely.
So technically, maybe there's a little chink here and there, but he's always developing. I don't think he's the man that his dad makes out he is, and he's a Golovkin beater. But time will tell. We've got to get through this test first. But definitely strength, his engine, and you see him training in the gym, and the speed. He seems to have limitless energy. He just goes and goes. So that's a big advantage.
Yeah.
If Groves starts, because we've seen a couple of times in the Froch fights, Groves has a bit of a fading issue, perhaps.
Yeah.
So that might be something here, that there's a first 4, 5, 6 rounds favours Groves, and then might be a switch in play, but definitely the engine.
Alex?
Yeah, like Damien says, the engine. I think his conditioning as well, very well conditioned. Like, he's just a natural athlete, isn't he? If you look, he's always training. I think he throws combinations really well. And he has got the power. It's not like a single knockout power. It's like an accumulation knockout, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wears them down. So yeah, I'd say, and his speed, obviously, he's extremely fast, isn't he? So he's conditioning his speed.
Yeah. I mean, he's a younger fighter. He's got less miles on the clock as well, I would say, because obviously Groves has had a few fights that have been sort of quite damaging. I mean, the Carl Froch knockout was, I mean, that was a horrendous knockout with his leg, sort of bent back. And as you both have said about the great engine that he's got and the work rate, and if he's able to get close to George Groves, I think that will be what he needs to do. Because George Groves, of course, when he beat De Gale, that was a great boxing sort of exhibition, boxing from distance, moving angles, and he's going to have to do that against Chris Eubank Jr. Because Eubank Jr., once he gets in close and starts doing them uppercuts, he can wear somebody down. In fact, Billy Joe Saunders, those last few rounds, some of them, he was really getting to him.
Yeah, he was.
It was just he started too late. What about George Groves and Damien? What's his skills?
I think he has a fantastic jab.
He does,
He's very good at range. He's got a fantastic, one of the best jabs I think in boxing currently. I rate that very highly, and we know he's got one punch stopping power. He's a tough fighter, and when he went through that series of fighting Froch, I didn't like him. And I was quite happy to see him lose, and you shouldn't sort of say that in some respects, but I didn't really like his character. But I'll be honest, as I sit here now, is that I'm very happy he got his title. I think on that fourth attempt and all the things he'd been through, to finally get there, I was pleased for him, and he deserved it because he was a hard worker. And we saw it against Froch. Froch kind of blocked punches with his face rather than his fists, and we knew he could take a shot. And that first fight, that punch he put on Froch, everyone was like, "Whoa, what is this?" So we knew he had the power in that fight. And then the second fight, Froch was far more cagey, not letting him get that shot in. So there's a good jab, a good 1-2 from range to can try and control Eubank, keep him off his chest. Anytime he comes in to govern on the high work rate, keep him away. Nice stiff jab, good strong right hand. Maybe that's how he defeats him. But
I mean, he's the naturally bigger man as well.
He's a lot bigger, isn't he?
So in the last fight, obviously our last fight discussion, I went with the smaller man and come away with egg on my face. But in this fight, George Groves is the bigger man. So whether that will play a factor, I don't know. Alex, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, same as what Damien said, really. I think his jab is really good. Groves' jab is really good. I think he's great at controlling the range as well. Like Damien said, the 1-2s as well. Like, really simple, but he's got it down, hasn't he? I think he's in like a really sort of unique position as well, because he's still quite young, but at the same time he's really experienced. So he's got that sort of balance, hasn't he, of the experience and the youth. Which he's got way more experience than Eubank as well at the highest level.
Yeah, he has.
I think he'll be able to handle the pressure a lot better than Eubank.
Right,
I think, I do rate Groves a lot. I think he's really deserving of his world title. I think he's really matured as a fighter as well.
I think to come back after that devastating knockout to Froch, and then to win a world title after, fair play to the guy. That shows character.
Shows heart, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the same. I think he needs to dictate the fight with his jab. He needs to control the whole ring with his movement and his jab, and use his boxing skills to keep Eubank away. When he fought De Gale, he did do that. It's just a matter of whether or not he can do the same against Eubank Jr. He's very good when he's fighting from distance, but as you said earlier, there is an element of fade that sometimes comes in with him. So as Eubank gets stronger, Groves may be fading, which is a recipe for disaster. I mean, in terms of predictions, Damien.
I can't. I've said he has that jab and he has the one-stop punch power. I can't see Chris Eubank hanging his chin out the way Froch did. And Froch stood there and said, "Go on then," so he did.
Yeah.
And he was like, "I didn't expect that." Eubank's not going to do that. He's far too fast and slippery and quick and moves his head, doesn't stay still. So I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to get stopped unless Groves just catches him blind.
I don't think in the first fight, certainly, I don't think that Froch actually respected him.
No, he didn't. He thought, I can just stand here and take this guy out, and he had to really get his, get his work together and do what he did. But I just can't. I can't see that. I can't see Eubank put himself in a position for it to end that way. I can see Eubank outworking Groves.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a late stoppage, but certainly a point. So if I've got to choose, it's tight, but I'll say Eubank points.
Eubank points.
Yeah.
Alex.
See, I think the opposite today. I mean, I think it's going to be Groves on points. The way I see it is obviously Eubank's really good close up, isn't he? But I think he's going to really struggle to get into range.
Yeah, he's got to get there.
I think he's going to really struggle. because say who was the last guy he fought in this series?
Groves.
Eubank.
Oh, Eubank.
Yeah.
It was I can't pronounce his name.
Well, if you watch that fight, I noticed a couple of times.
Avni Yildirim.
Yildirim, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But when he goes forward, Eubank, he just steps forward, he walks forward, and I feel like with someone like Groves who controls the range so well, I think he'll really struggle to get shots off. And I do like Eubank. I think he's a really good fighter, and I'd like to see him win a world a well-renowned world title.
Yeah,
but I just can't see him beating Groves. So I think he's too experienced as well.
Groves on points.
I think Groves on points.
I mean, from my own point of view, I think that Groves will box him in the early rounds, and I think it will take quite a few rounds for Eubank to catch up with him. But I think he'll be after him the whole time, and I think there won't be that element of fade that we've talked about, which Groves has shown in a few fights before. And I just think that he'll close the gap and he'll get closer, and then he'll start to land some of these big uppercuts, and the wearing down process will begin. And I think he stops him. I think Eubank stops Groves late on.
Okay.
I think that'll be me. So there's our fight predictions for that one. I mean, it's a good fight. It's a good fight. It is a 50-50 fight.
I could just as easily sit here and agree and what Alex said. I'm just
absolutely
very close.
Yeah. I mean, I only like to set these fight discussions up for actual fights that are sort of 50-50.
Yeah, it's going to be a great fight.
It's going to be a great fight, a very interesting fight. I think the build-up again will start to really hot up as we get towards sort of the final press conferences.
There's a bit of needle, isn't there?
There's needle there.
Coming in.
Yeah, and also like the weigh-in will be sort of piping hot, and then the fight. I think that, the walk-ins and the just before is going to be very interesting. It's going to be a great spectacle. In terms of other fights that are coming up, heavyweight action. We've got Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. How do you see this one going, Damien?
I should be a fan of Ortiz being heavyweight and being southpaw, but any fights that I've seen him in, I find him very slow and lethargic. His work rate's just bad. But when he does work and he puts his punches together, he's quality. He's got the power, certainly to trouble Wilder, but I just don't think he's got the athleticism or the sort of desire.
Or the youth?
Not so much the youth, because I think if you keep yourself in shape and you're serious about your job, then we can always revert back to the Klitschko. A 40-year-old man can be a world champion. And I don't think the age is an issue if you're looking after yourself and your diet's good, your conditioning's good, you're taking care of business. I just find he's not. He just sort of. There's been a few issues with drugs. Wasn't the fight already been postponed, hasn't it, because of some sort of irregularity? So I just I just think it's Wilder mid to late round stops him. I do.
Okay.
Gets him going. After the way he destroyed Stavern. He I mean, sometimes he looks a bit unorthodox, and he comes in from all bizarre angles, but he's doing the work.
Yeah.
And everyone says he's technically not very good, but until someone can stop him from doing it,
it's working.
He keeps doing it.
Yeah, it's definitely working.
So I think similar things. Mid rounds, I think he stops him, or if he doesn't put him down, referee jumps in because he's just there wailing away, bang, 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 and the ref just like, no, that's enough. Yeah,
could see that. Alex?
I think it's going to be quite tight, actually. I do. I think Ortiz is really good. I think he's really powerful as well, isn't he? He's really strong. And like Damien mentioned, Wilder is sort of quite sloppy and unorthodox with what he does as well. Like they call him the windmill, don't they? You know, and I think Ortiz is quite sort of standard with his approach, isn't he? So I think he might catch him, but Wilder's I think he's on a winning streak at the minute, isn't he? And I'd like
loads of confidence.
Yeah, I'd like to see him. I'd like to see him and Joshua down the line.
That's the one.
I'd probably go with Wilder.
Yeah.
By TKO probably.
What round?
7.
I think Wilder's going to go in there, and I reckon within 5 rounds he's going to have knocked him out.
You think so?
Yeah, I just think too many times that I've thought that Wilder's going to get exposed because of his wild punches, and then he just goes in and just leathers him and knocks him out. And I just think that Ortiz, I actually think that he probably is a little bit too old. Inactivity as well. I mean, the people that he's fighting, he doesn't fight that often, and when he does fight,
it's not that quality.
It's not that quality. It's almost like he's been ticking over for the big fight. And I think in that time, he's lost time that he could have been having some quality fights. So for me, early stoppage for Wilder as far as I'm concerned. The other very interesting one that's on the sort of the horizon is Anthony Joshua versus Joseph Parker. Alex, how do you see this one?
Some people have it quite close, but I think AJ is going to do the business. I think he's going to knock him out within 5 rounds. I think he's going to be too strong. And too big for him.
Because of course they're saying that Joseph Parker's never been knocked down or knocked out, or but I don't think that really applies when you're facing Anthony Joshua.
He's never been punched by someone with his quality and power.
And I know that the Parker camp, they were sort of saying that AJ's almost got a glass chin, but I don't agree with that.
Press conference. Everyone's got a chin that can be exposed.
Especially at heavyweight as well.
Absolutely. What about Damien? Do you just think AJ's got it?
Did you say AJ in 5?
Within 5,
Same.
Yeah.
I know styles make fights, but they've both fought Takam. Joshua, I think, got a nasty nose injury early on, maybe affected his breathing, which could have affected his conditioning. But he didn't look in trouble at any time.
No.
Takam's a very, very hard, rough opponent, a bit of a throwback to the old Holyfield. Very hard-headed, very hard to break down, but ultimately beatable. He made easier work of it and made more of a mess of Takam than Parker did. Parker kind of went all the way, and it was a swinging and to and froing. I've always thought Parker's had better hand speed and perhaps a better engine than AJ. But when I saw Parker just against Hughie Fury, if Parker turns up and performs the same way, he's gone in 3. I think that was a bad performance. I think for Parker to beat AJ's got to be off, and Parker's got to have the night of his life. So it's doable. But I think inside of 5, I think he's got him.
So I think actually that Anthony Joshua, I think he might actually carry him a little bit. I think like in the Takam fight, I think he was just trying to get himself some rounds, and I just wonder whether or not he'll just use it as an opportunity to get some more experience in there, and perhaps still knock Parker out, but perhaps round 8 or 9 instead, and just because I felt against Takam, he could have stopped it any time he wanted, and he was just busting him up. And some people said it was a premature stoppage, but the bottom line was he was cut on both eyes, he was smashed to bits. It was only a matter of time, and the only reason that he actually sort of was struggling himself, AJ, was because he had a broken nose from a headbutt. So, you know, that's not going to happen every fight. And I think that against Parker, I think he'll just have too much. So all of us agree really that for that fight, even though it's down the line and we're looking a fair way ahead, we feel that AJ will win by KO, and we all think that Wilder will win as well. So we're looking for them both to meet up down the line. Big unification fight with hopefully, if Tyson Fury can get his act together, with the winner out of AJ and Wilder to meet the linear champion, who is Tyson Fury. I just think that would be the dream scenario really for heavyweight boxing. That would actually tie up a lot of loose ends that need tying up. So just want to, just before we wrap up, we've had obviously our predictions on all of the fights, but my channel, as you know, is an actual fight equipment channel, so it would be remiss of me at this point not to sort of mention gloves that have been used in the fights and the ones that I'm expecting the fighters to use. Lomachenko versus Rigondeaux. Lomachenko wore his normal rival gloves. Rigo, he wore his normal Grant gloves. Eubank Jr. versus George Groves. Eubank Jr. normally wears winning fight gloves. Not many people wear winning fight gloves, but he does. And George Groves normally wears Grant. Although I have had a little whisper that he might be wearing a different pair of gloves, but we'll have to wait and see on fight night. Wilder, he goes with the American company Everlast, and Luis Ortiz, he normally wears Rival as well. And then you've got AJ, he wears Rival also. So you've got three big fighters there, big name fighters, all wearing Rival gloves currently. And check out my fight gloves review of a pair of Rival fight gloves, Paul Butler's gloves, so have a look at that. And Parker normally wears the puncher's gloves that are Clayto Reyes, so again that pretty much suits his style. So there's the fight discussion for this. I do like to do these for the big fights, the ones where there's a real sort of interest that gets us around the table. I'd like to thank Damien and Alex for his time and for their input. Great again. And just one thing left to say, and that is please like and subscribe to Fit to Box channel, and I shall speak to you soon.